You know that feeling in the pit of your stomach? That sudden creeping anxiety that your job might be on the line? It's awful. Well, today, we're going to talk about it. We're not just going to go over the warning signs. We're going to build a solid playbook so you can handle this whole situation with some confidence and keep your career moving in the right direction. So let's just dive right in.
Yeah, it's a feeling a lot of us, unfortunately, know all too well. One minute, everything's fine. You're getting good feedback, you're included in things, and then the next, it's like a cold front just moved in. Suddenly, conversations are clipped, your emails are getting ignored, and that easy, friendly vibe you had, it's just gone. And there's a name for this in the world of corporate speak. It's called an involuntary transition. I know, it sounds so sterile and detached, right? But what it really means is that the company is starting the process of letting you go. And honestly, just knowing that term is your first real step toward taking back some control. It helps turn that vague, awful anxiety into a real problem that you can actually start to solve.
So, how do you actually spot these things before they become a huge official problem? Well, you kind of have to become a detective at your own job. You've got to start looking for those subtle clues that are often hiding in plain sight. Okay, here's one of the biggest red flags you'll see. All of a sudden, you're being pushed out of the loop. You go from being CC'd on everything and invited to every important meeting to not. You start hearing about major decisions after the fact, maybe in the hallway or from a coworker. Trust me, this isn't just an oversight. It's almost always a deliberate move to start sidelining you.
And then this starts to happen. Your actual job begins to shrink, little by little. That big project you were so excited to lead? Oh, it's been given to Sarah, just to lighten your load. That key client you've had a great relationship with for years, now David's taking that over. This isn't about collaboration. It's about slowly making your role less and less essential. And then there's the change in tone. It feels like you are suddenly living under a microscope. Little things, like a minor typo that nobody would have cared about last month, are now being called out in group emails. This isn't really about maintaining high standards. What's happening is they're building a paper trail. They're documenting issues to justify a decision that, honestly, they've probably already made.
So, all those subtle signs, those gut feelings, think of them as the tremors before the earthquake. But at a certain point, the warnings usually stop being subtle. They become official, they get written down, and they become absolutely impossible to ignore. And the most common tool they use for this is the Performance Improvement Plan, or as you've probably heard it called, a PIP. Now, on paper, its official purpose is to help you improve, to get you back on track. You'll get a list of very specific and often very, very difficult goals, a strict timeline, and the whole thing will be overseen by HR. But let's be real here for a second. While a PIP is framed as a lifeline, it's much more useful to think of it as a runway. It's the company giving you official notice to prepare for takeoff, to your next job. The moment you see this document, that's your cue to stop hoping things will get better and start getting your own flight plan in order. Okay, so you've seen the signs. Maybe you've even been handed that PIP. It is so easy to feel completely powerless in this moment, but this is exactly when you can and you must take back control. It's time to stop reacting to what they're doing and start acting for yourself. This is your playbook. Your action plan has 4 really critical steps. First, and this is the hardest one, acknowledge what's happening. Denial is not your friend right now. Second, document everything. Keep a private log of unfair criticism or projects that were taken from you. Third, and you need to do this immediately and quietly, get that resume updated and start pinging your network. And finally, number 4, start preparing your story. How are you going to talk about this in your next interview? This isn't a story of failure. It's a story about a strategic pivot to a role that's a much better fit. Look, going through this is incredibly stressful. So beyond the practical stuff, like updating your resume, there is one last crucial part of the playbook. And that's all about managing your own mindset and finding a little bit of peace in all the chaos. Here's the hard truth. You can do all the steps in the playbook perfectly, but you probably can't change the company's final decision. So the ultimate goal here has to be acceptance. Accepting that this chapter of your career is closing. Now, this is not the same as giving up. It's about protecting your emotional energy for what really matters, which is finding and winning your next opportunity. And that really brings us to this timeless piece of wisdom. This isn't just a nice saying. It's a powerful strategy for navigating any tough situation. Accept what you can't change. In this case, the company's decision. Have the courage to change the things you can. Your resume, your interview skills, your network, and most importantly, have the wisdom to know the difference.
Losing a job can feel like the end of the world, but with the right mindset, it is always, always the beginning of something new.